So, Charlie, let's talk a little bit about Roy Moore. I mean, everybody's familiar, and we've certainly talked about the allegations against him. I'm still boggled by the idea that this guy is calling up a 17-year-old in high school, asking what she's doing, and her response is, "I'm in trigonometry class." Um, but what do you think? I mean, and I asked Digby about this, but what do you think is the angle here, where Mitch McConnell, and forgive me for being cynical about Mitch McConnell, but I just don't think when he comes out there and he says, "I believe these women," that he is suddenly woke. That he has become far more sensitive to these issues. I think it's a function of him, obviously, not wanting Roy Moore in the Senate. But how are they gonna work this out when it comes to tax reform?
Well, first of all, they can't. Mitch McConnell can't do anything about Roy Moore because Roy Moore is the only one who can do something about Roy Moore, and he's not going anywhere. I mean, until he's in the Senate, Mitch McConnell has no control over this guy. I mean, it's very plain that the National Republican Party has no control over this guy. And now they've so run away from him that if and when he gets elected, and I still make that a much better than 50-50 shot, right, he's not going to owe anybody anything. He's going to be a complete wild card.
So do you think that McConnell thinks that Roy Moore is not a vote for the tax cuts for the rich? I mean, what is? Well, I mean,
on the tax cut thing, I don't know who's voting for what. I mean, I thought I had the lay of the land pretty well sussed, and then Ron Johnson, of all people, comes out and says he's not voting for it.
Well, Ron
Johnson
he
may come around. I mean, I don't have any faith in Ron Johnson's.
I would say he's going to come around.
But it's just they can't seem to get this one right. They cannot thread the needle and go through the reconciliation process. I don't think.
I am convinced they're going to be able to pass this, and I would say not even a quarter in Ron Johnson's claim that he wants a better bill would get you a phone call these days, because you can't even find a phone booth. So I have no faith in Ron Johnson. I'm just, it's interesting to watch this thing play out with Roy Moore. You had Sean Hannity, who who put Roy Moore on notice. You got 24 hours to come up with a credible claim that this didn't happen. During those 24 hours, 2 more women came out with accusations. Sean Hannity was still able to say, "I'm satisfied. He didn't do anything." And Sean Hannity's just this guy on Fox News, but really, Sean Hannity is also a guy who's probably talking to Donald Trump 3 times a week.
Oh, I don't think there's any question. Geraldo Rivera said he's the most powerful man second most powerful man in the country, which I think is a little bit weird on Geraldo's part. But
yes,
no, I as far as Moore as a senator, I mean, it's bizarre that we're even talking about this. This is a guy who lost his job as Chief Justice of the state Supreme Court twice because he wouldn't obey the law. And that has made him more of a hero and not less. So I think that dynamic still prevails.
Yeah, I got to think that you're right about that. It is, and I guess there's a sense, and it occurs to me, and I want to bounce this off you, that Mitch McConnell, is basically positing to his caucus, look, either Roy Moore is not going to win, or Roy Moore is not a vote we can count on. If we're going to do this, it's got to be done now, before Christmas, essentially. And if we don't do this, you're going to have nothing come 2018, nothing to show for the 2 years that you've been in this session of Congress. I mean, is that your sense of what's going down?
Well, yeah, I mean, that motivation was there long before anybody ever heard of Roy Moore's dating habits. I mean, they had to get this done before the end of the year, or else they would have had a year where they had total control of the government and got nothing done. So yeah, I think the Christmas deadline was there, Roy Moore or not. So and besides, they can't swear him in until January, right?
Right.
Even if he gets elected in December, he's not going to be voting on this thing.
No, and we should say also that there was some idea floated around, and I don't know that this is going to happen, but that McConnell was trying to convince Luther Strange to resign. I guess the theory being that then they would need a special election for the pre-existing, that would preempt the other special election. Like, I don't quite get this.
That was a plan. Rick Hasen, who's the election law specialist, one of my go-to people, he says that there's a real 17th Amendment problem with that. That doing that would be contrary to the provisions of the 17th Amendment, which is direct election of senators. The person that would have to do that is Kay Ivey, the governor of Alabama, and I don't think she wants any part of that. There's nothing she can do in that situation that's good for her politically.
Right.
I mean, if she were to follow that particular plan, first of all, she'd be involved in so many lawsuits her grandchildren would be answering motions. Second of all, she'd lose half of her political base within the state because she's screwing our boy Roy Moore.
Right.
So, I mean, she'd have to do it, and I don't know much about Kay Ivey, but I've got to believe that she's smart enough not to get involved in that. I mean, to me, if I were, an Alabamian, I'd just let this thing ride and say, look, if Roy Moore gets elected, it's McConnell's problem. We'll let him deal with it. If Doug Jones gets elected, we'll let him have one term. We'll beat him 6 years from now.
Right.
That just seems like the simplest solution all the way around.
Won't even be 6 years, will it? I mean, he's just filling out Sessions' term. I'm not sure if that comes up 6 years from now or 4 years from now.
But
I guess
let him go to let him have the seat till the next election, and we'll beat him with, and it's still Alabama, and by then nobody will remember Roy Moore. Plus, if they do that little stunt where they have a new election, who's to say Roy Moore won't run it and win? They can't ban him.
Well, yeah, I wonder what would happen about that, because there's a sore loser provision, but he wouldn't have run. He wouldn't have lost at that point.
Yeah. Plus, I don't think Luther Strange wants anything to do with any of this anymore either.
Yeah, I
think he's pretty much fed up at this point.
I get the sense this is all just a way to put pressure on Roy Moore to drop out. But I'm with you. I don't think Roy Moore is going anywhere.
He has no reason to drop out. What's the reason that he should drop out? He suddenly develops a conscience?
Yeah, I don't.
There's no political reason for him to drop out. He's still a solid candidate down there.
And I would imagine
he should drop out to make Mitch McConnell's life easier. I don't think that's going to happen either.
I imagine he's also got to be thinking, if I drop out, I'm not a senator. I'm still facing these accusations, and it's not there's reason for me to to believe I'm going to want the protection of being a sitting senator, because it gives me a lot of excuses to settle perhaps any lawsuits or whatnot. I don't think he's going anywhere. All right.
It's just gone completely bizarre now. His wife is doxing Washington Post reporters. It's just completely bizarre.
Well, all right. Well, let's take a break. I want to talk just a little bit about that, but I also want to talk about what's going on with Dodd-Frank. We are seeing the erosion of Dodd-Frank. We're seeing the assault on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Some of which there are some, so-called moderate Democrats who are joining in on the pig pile. The banks still have a lot of friends in Washington. We'll be right back. I'm Sam Seder. This is Ring of Fire Radio. I'm talking to the great Charlie Pierce.